Folks, it's me, Denny, for yet another Dad Szn Show, episode 4. Some are calling it. I'm joined, as you can see, by a fellow named Patrick Daugherty, and we get to do something here that we never get to do, which is to podcast. We hardly ever get to do that. We've only done it hundreds and hundreds of times, multiple times a week for 3.5 years now. But I am very pleased and happy that Pat can join me as the first, by the way, the first ever guest on the Dad Szn Show. The Dad Szn Show is only 4 episodes old, but you're the first, man. Thank you for joining us.
I am known as a trailblazer always. I'm known as by the way, one thing I don't ever do, I don't make dad jokes, as you know.
Yeah.
I make more like scatological, absurdist, like riffing and like, how did that thought just pop into Pat's head? But I did think of a dad joke when you said it was episode 4.
Yeah. What is the joke?
This episode is a new hope, Denny. A new hope. A new hope for Dad Szn with the guest Patrick Daugherty.
A new hope for Dad Szn Show's subscriber base. that's
No. Yeah, man, it's so hard to grow a subscriber base, isn't it? But we're gonna do our best.
That brings me to the main point of this podcast, which is for you to subscribe.
I do need to subscribe. Actually, I haven't subscribed yet. That would seem like the bare minimum I could do as a friend.
It's funny. It's funny. Like a lot of our friends have incredibly successful media, almost empires. You could describe them. Okay,
they're empire builders,
and we don't subscribe to any of it.
It's just, I know.
And I feel badly about that. Here's the thing, though. A lot of them have comped me subscriptions.
Yeah, I know.
And I do read and listen to what they do, but yeah, we could be more supportive. Probably
we could. I was comped to establish the run for a few years, then I started subscribing to support it. And now, like, they don't need that, though. They're just millionaires now. They don't even need my support, and I still do it anyway. We should support our friends better.
We should.
It's a very 21st century thing. I'll get around to supporting them later. It's fine.
Right. So we used to, in the old days, we used to have jobs. Everybody used to have a job where a company supported them. Pat and I still are on that track. But now everybody supports themselves through their own thing or through GoFundMe. And
I was going to say, I actually have a GoFundMe for my funeral in 2085. If you want to donate to it right now.
I think I already did.
Did you? It was only $50 though. I know.
A few months ago. Yeah, well, it's actually $50 revolving. It's every month.
No, you put it under 50 anonymous, but I was able to determine it was you. So yeah,
I stopped subscribing to NPR and instead subscribe to your funeral GoFundMe. You're going to have a great casket. That's what I can promise. Yeah.
The St. Louis Cardinals still exist. Then I'll get a St. Louis Cardinals casket.
Well, I'm glad my money's going somewhere good. All right, so today, just to preview the show. Well, first of all, there's going to be a lot of tangents, obviously, because it's me and Pat. That's what we do. We have a show called Galaxy Brains. You can find on NBCSports.com, where that's pretty much what we do. We just go off on wild tangents, and no matter how carefully Galaxy Brains is planned, it always goes sideways. Which is fun.
It is.
So we have today we're going to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk on the serious side. We're going to revisit my conversation from episode 2 about authoritarian parenting.
Attack of the Clones.
And how dads can find a different way and avoid the pitfalls, obviously, of that authoritarian.
Can you teach me, please?
Oh man, I feel vastly underqualified, but I can have some suggestions. And we are going to talk about dad pants, which is not really a thing that I think about a lot, but I'm thinking about it more and more after the New York Times had a piece in Sunday's paper where about the fact that after 15 years of cool pants being very narrow and skinny,
they're supposed to cut off your blood supply.
Right. They're now baggy. They're now really, really big, and not just comfortable, like ludicrously big, like David Bowie circa 1977 big. Okay, where it's puffed out, looks almost like clownish. Okay, I'm not doing that. Just to put it out there, I will not be doing that.
No.
But I wanted to read from an excerpt from this piece in the New York Times. Recommend people go check it out. I can provide a GIF link for the folks since I'm rich. I
do feel very powerful when I get people in New York. Yeah, don't worry about it. I got
it's fine.
A gift link. Yeah, I will pay. Maybe her in the New York Times. Maybe.
Yeah, right. The old gray lady. Ever heard of it?
The grayest lady.
All right. All manner of pants polarities rapidly inverted themselves. This is over the past 15 years. And by the way, this writer loves him a thesaurus. Okay. My God. Okay.
I was going to say that navel gazing comes to mind there.
Oh, there are some turns of phrase here where, as an editor, I think you have to say, maybe just pump the brakes. All right. Perhaps. Oh, here we go. Perhaps the most epochal illustration concerned of all people, Barack Obama. In 2009, he threw the first pitch at the All-Star game wearing shapeless, wide-legged Levi's.
Denny, I got to interrupt real quick. Do you know where the 2009 All-Star game was?
I'm guessing it was in St. Louis.
It was in St. Louis, Missouri, but you can continue now.
Yeah. Uncool dad jeans at the time. They inspired widespread ridicule because the way pants fit is a kind of lingua franca. Come on, man. Come on. You got to tone it down.
You seriously got to dial it back just a little bit.
I know you went and got your 15 advanced degrees in writing.
Say this guy enrolled at Harvard when he was 17, obviously.
Yeah, come on. Even people who claim not to care at all about clothes feel qualified to judge. That's true. A decade later, though, those kind of dad jeans were looking better than ever. And here were photos of Obama pushing 60 in far too tight, far too cropped chinos during a visit to Kuala Lumpur. Looking at these pictures side by side, we had incontrovertible proof. Skinny pants. This part killed me. It was a dagger. Skinny pants were the real dad pants now.
Oh, stop.
You might still be wearing them, but they are no longer, quote, right. Pat,
yeah,
I think this is actually true. What's your take on this?
Well, first off, my take on this is that it's a fake trend because there's no longer trends. Anybody else remember trends? Remember when there used to be trends like every single year? Like clothes were just entirely different, and trends have just kind of gone away in the 21st century.
Yes,
I guess the main trend now is, of course, just being on your phone. Oh, you ever get off your phone? Ever think about that?
No, the answer is no.
And yeah, the answer, of course, is no. Will never get off my phone. So we don't even have time for trends anymore. And will I become a part of this trend? Absolutely not. Because I'm the classic dad. Like whatever pants I liked when I was 24, that's just the way it's gonna be, folks.
But that at some point that doesn't work.
It works for me. I'm a dad. What I say goes. I don't know if you thought about that, huh? Think about that. How many times do I have to ask you to go upstairs? Huh? And Bennett's already been in the bath for 10 minutes.
And that's a good shift to authoritarian parenting. Okay, yes. So the writer says in so many extremely fancy words that all of us in our late 30s and early 40s, I'm a few years older than Pat. All of us are trying to recreate our mid to late 20s. We're trying to wear what we wore back then, and that was another dagger. That was another personal attack. I felt absolutely I don't know, punched. I felt punched in the chest over that line because it's true. Because I hate that it's true, but I am still trying to dress like I did at my physical peak, which was my late 20s. Okay, I was 30 pounds, 40 pounds lighter. Okay, I didn't have any dad weight. Okay, here's an anecdote for how tight my clothes got back then. For my son's baptism in the Greek church, I went to go get a really nice suit. I wanted to look great. I didn't want to just wear my regular suit. I went to go get a gray suit, which I had never worn before. And I asked the tailor, I said, make this thing.
Hold on. First off, you have a New York Times subscription now. You've spoken to a tailor?
I have spoken, but this is the only time.
And yet every time you post a picture of your house, your yard has gained an acre. And, pretty soon, are those hounds in the background, Denny?
I can actually hit a full driver in my backyard and not run out of room.
Sorry, you're speaking to your tailor about your.
Yeah, not my tailor, a tailor who happened to be in the store.
Sorry,
And I said,
I forgot. Freudian, so I wasn't supposed to reveal your tailor.
Right. No, the tailor lives with us, just so everyone knows. And I told her, I said, listen, I need this thing to be as tight as possible. Okay. Like, I don't care about comfort. I was just being real. Okay. Because I had asked tailors before that, like, can you do that? No, it wasn't tight enough. So I came to that baptism in the tightest suit ever made. Okay. And I looked great. I'm going to say it. I looked really good. I could never, ever pull that off today, but yet I keep trying.
Oh, yeah.
Why do I keep trying?
I don't know. I haven't gotten a new suit since 20. That's actually not true. I got a new suit last year. I actually got 2 new suits last year.
Wow, really? Wow.
So I have a few thoughts on dad clothes. So obviously it's tight as possible. And the tightest possible thing's always been a bit harder for me to pull off because Denny has met me in person several times. I have what is known as junk in the trunk.
As do I.
I have junk in the trunk. Yours just got nothing on mine. I've been studying yours very closely.
Okay, well,
nothing. You think that stopped me though? And it's never once stopped me. So I go. I try to. So first of the tailors, the whole like tailor unions, they had like a big pushback in 2000. We're not doing it. We're not going any time. This is not right. This is not what God intended. And we finally broke them down by 2007, 2008 though. So they're as tight as possible. I can never go back. I have one suit. The suit I do look the best in. I mean, it is quite not exaggerated. It is actually skin tight. Like it's just skin tight.
Yeah.
I actually met the current president of the United States in the suit, Mr. Joseph R. Biden. And it was the first, he's like, "Gee, get this guy out of the room. Get this joker out. I'm serious. You think I'm kidding around? I'm serious. Get him out of the room."
Is that when he threw his ice cream at you?
He did. He dumped it on my head back in 2016. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I have very tight suits. The dad clothing, I had a few thoughts. So you say you were trying to stick with what worked when you're like 27. I actually did stop that completely. As you know, I haven't worn a t-shirt since like 2011.
No, you are firmly against t-shirts. I can confirm.
I haven't worn a t-shirt since 2011, but something very insidious has actually happened with the dad pants. And so first off, I'm a firm believer in the dad pant. I wear tight jeans, but you know what they put like, so everyone thinks like only women wear like stretchy pants. Men do not speak about it. Now they've put all the stretch material in our jeans and pants, and they're so much more comfortable than they used to be. And it's enabled me to remain a tight pants wearer because now they stretch,
right?
And they're very, very comfortable. And I just feel like this is like an unspoken burden we're all carrying now. Like, I wear stretch pants. Yes, and like and I feel like we need to start normalizing this and talking about this.
Well, right, yes, and that's what we're here to do. We want to normalize the talking of dad pants, the talking about dad pants. If I look at pictures over the years, I see my pants getting progressively tighter. So what I thought were tight jeans back in 2007 or 8, they were not. Okay, they were just straight-legged Obama style jeans, the jeans I just referenced in the New York Times piece,
boot cut.
And I thought, well, this looks good. In hindsight, I think it looks terrible. Okay, and and then it got progressively tighter and tighter to the point where, you have my brother-in-law saying, "I actually am uncomfortable with your jeans."
One of the problems is that everyone knows, though, is that baggy jeans do not look good. Like, there's a reason. Well, I mean, for like centuries. I mean, like men used to wear tights, and like for centuries, the jeans were never baggy till like 1993. That was an aberration,
and they look terrible. By the way,
they look horrible. They look absolutely horrible. That's why I haven't really noticed this trend out in the wild. Granted, I do live in the lamest suburb in the entire contiguous United States, but
well, okay, we do have some comments here. Tyler says the reason we keep trying to repeat the stuff from our 20s is because vanity and motivation for living better, looking better is not actually bad. Yeah, I mean, I get that. But look, I have come to grips. It took me a long time. Pat can probably attest. I've come to grips with the fact that I'm never going to get back to the way I looked physically in my mid and late 20s.
Speak for yourself. I am.
I'm not. I've given up on that. And you know what? I'm okay with it. Like I'm vain as hell. Okay, like yes, I exercise purely for vanity. I don't care at all
Same.
about the health benefits. I mean, I'll say in mixed company, but oh yeah, so running is so good for your health. I don't care.
Running's the absolute worst.
Come on. I mean, all exercise is horrific. You know, like if I could just take a pill, Ozempic. I don't know.
It's can maybe get us a line on a prescription for this, by the way?
Yeah. Does anybody watching Dad's Season have some extra Ozempic?
Is it on the black market yet?
That's what we have. Instead of subscribing and liking the podcast, you can just send us some Ozempic.
Denny started a new alternate podcast solely to get an Ozempic hookup. He's just hoping someone like I can't afford, or your podcast is free, so they can afford to subscribe.
Yeah.
But like I work at a clinic. I can get you an Ozempic hookup real easily, Denny.
And then let's do it. All right. And I just want to, before we abandon our pant talk and get to more pressing matters, which include a Beatles anecdote I don't think that Pat knows about. So there was there was a post on Twitter now called X.
Well, curious that you actually called it what it's called. Twitter.
No, back when it was called Twitter. It's no longer called. It will never be called Twitter again.
It's like, does anyone ever call AT&T Stadium AT&T? They say Jerry World. It's the same thing. Like,
no, it's not the same thing.
It's the same thing. Does anyone call it Invesco Field at Mile High? It's Mile High.
I do. I say Invesco. I also call it the Cognizant Open. Cognizant Classic.
Oh my gosh. Geha Field at Arrowhead.
Which the Cognizant Classic just wrapped up. I'm old enough to remember when Jack Nicklaus won the Cognizant Classic in 1978. Wow, all right. So there was a comedian named Noah Garfinkel who posted in 2021, quote, "Whatever style pants look like shit to you are the pants you're supposed to wear. And as soon as they start to look, and as soon as they start to look normal to you, those are not the right pants anymore. You should always be wearing pants you think look like shit." And I think that's actually what it comes down to, because when pants got really skinny, okay, when that trend came in like 2015-ish, 12.
No. Pants got, listen, I saw a photo of the Strokes once. And then that's when I never wore baggy jeans.
Oh, again. Right. Yeah. And you know why? Because they look cool as hell.
They did. They looked so good.
All rock stars look cool in extremely tight jeans.
And rock stars can gain a bunch of weight and it still doesn't matter. They still look great in extremely tight jeans because they always then wear like a denim vest or something.
Iggy Pop is like 92 and still wears tight jeans.
He weighs 92 pounds also, but
not anymore. I will say that has been updated, and it's not true. My guy Iggy has discovered good food.
Iggy has fallen.
Iggy has fallen. Iggy may be looking into Ozempic. We're gonna see. I'm sorry, that's mean. That's mean. Very mean. Tyler's back. Cool hair looks better than cool jeans. Yeah, I mean that's true. Oh, here we go. Iggy Pop's jeans are actually holy.
It's true. That's a long-standing. There's support beams in Iggy Pop's jeans.
Oh, the fact that Iggy Pop is still alive, and I know it is
a miracle.
A similar extent, Keith Richards. I know Keith Richards is more legendary for his drug use,
staying aliveness. He's the GOAT, staying alive. But you can't really dethrone Keith.
But Iggy Pop was. We're talking 40 years of like the most dangerous sort of drug consumption, nonstop.
He's probably been clinically dead more times than Keith Richards, but I bet Keith Richards has done more overall drugs than
I'm definitely taking Iggy if we're doing a head-to-head on who's done more drugs.
Well, I'll take Iggy on who's been clinically dead more times, Keith on who has done more drugs.
I would take the over on 6.5 on Iggy being clinically dead. Somehow he's still alive and living in Florida. All right, before we get to the meat of the show, the authoritarian parenting situation, I do want to ask if Pat has heard this story, and I need you to be honest.
I'll be honest.
Don't mess around here. This is
come on. They were in Hamburg.
This is a serious part of the show. So I read an interview with Paul McCartney shortly after Hey Jude hit the radio and became a huge hit.
1967.
There you go. And he said that there are no drums, and the song is sparse for the first 45 seconds because Ringo had left the studio to go to the bathroom. Do you know this?
No, is it over?
No.
No, I don't
So
know. I don't know if I know this yet.
so they were struggling recording it. They over and over and over. They couldn't see the drum kit because it was like isolated in the studio. So Ringo gets up, goes to the bathroom. They don't know it. Okay, he doesn't tell anybody. They start recording. The recording goes off without a hitch. It's really good. Everybody's into it. Everybody's liking it. And Paul's listening and he can't hear the drums. And he's like, okay, well, they got it. He's got to be playing it. I just can't hear it. We're going to keep going. We're going to get this thing done. So Ringo creeps back into the studio 45 seconds in, sits behind his drum kit, and that's exactly the moment where you hear the boom, 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 and the drums come in.
I actually have never heard. I've heard first. I said 67. It's probably 68. Actually, it's like one of the most iconic like drum intros in rock history.
Yes,
because its absence is weird. Without it, you kind of don't realize what you're missing. But like, oh, there seems like there's a little something missing, and then it comes in and it feels so right.
It's so good.
That's insane. I actually did not know that.
There's
so many weird Beatles stories like that.
I've been telling everybody I know that because first of all, I love Hey Jude, and I think Hey Jude. I mean, it's neck and neck with probably greatest songs of the 20th century.
It is. I think it probably actually is. And, even like real Beatles heads, like a lot of times they don't even want to put it in the top 10.
Oh,
because it doesn't like belong to Beatles heads. It just like belongs to everybody. And it's one of those songs that became like air,
right,
in a very good way.
I'm not a Beatles head, by the way, but I love that song. I would put it up against pretty much anything for the best song of the 20th century. And it happened accidentally, and it was just the piano at first, and it's beautiful. It's perfect. It reminds me of the way Brian Eno used to get so stupid in the studio to like make people make mistakes, and like force that to happen, force Ringo leaving the drums to happen, and to create better music, less planned music. The less planning you do, it seems to work out. So I respect the hell out of that story. I love it.
That's I recently read a very detailed book on Bob Dylan, like 1961 to 1966. So let's just say Bob didn't believe in planning at all. He would get like super. If they had to do a second take, he'd be like, "Well, I'm just going to retire." He would seriously just like get like angry. Like, I'm just gonna tear up my recording contract and go.
That's Bowie was similar in that he wanted to get in and he wanted to get out, and he was known largely as like the most professional recording artist of the time because he just wanted to hit it once and leave, and didn't want to be grinding in there. The Rolling Stones were famous for being in the studio for like days and days to record one song because Mick Jagger kept throwing temper tantrums, okay, and breaking down and weeping in front of people. And so, being a huge prima donna, and Bowie wasn't like that. Sounds like Dylan.
Well, a Beatles anecdote you probably don't know is so you mentioned like a moment of serendipity and like spontaneity for Hey Jude. That was during the White Album recording sessions, which has maybe the single most infamous example of over studio work, where Paul made the Beatles do like quite literally like 90 takes of Obla Di Obla Da.
Really?
Which, a lot of people just hate in general. And like basically every Beatle by the end of it was like, I've never heard a worse song in my life. And like he really like made, it might have been what ruined the band. He like made them the Joker.
It's a bad song.
It's fine. My son likes it.
I mean, it's not in the top 100 Beatles songs.
It's not. No, it's not. It's 113. Sal
says, I say take a sad song and make it better. Yes, that's right, and that's what we do. I'm gonna check your comments here. Clinically Dead is gonna be my new fantasy team name. That's actually
I might have to steal Tyler's idea and name my fantasy baseball team Clinically Dead.
Yes, we do. We are aware of the Beatles' drug consumption at that time.
They like their drugs.
And afterward. So let's see. Any okay. All right. We are done. We are
Denny,
done.
have you ever been arrested for smoking dope in Japan?
No, I haven't, but I guess Lennon has, right?
It was Paul.
It was Paul?
Yeah, it was Paul.
Oh, because I know Lennon went to Japan with Bowie and they did some things.
I say Japan was a little more uptight in those days than it is now. Yeah.
They explored all of the things that the world has to offer in Japan. Anyway, yeah, let's get to and feel free to jump in to the chat here with anything related to what we're talking about here. I wanted to talk with Pat about the authoritarian style parenting, and it's in part because I wanted to revisit some of what we talked about a few weeks ago, and I also wanted to update folks on something. So after I recorded that show and thought about the things I had said, and you end up saying things on air that you don't really plan on. It just happens. Like I don't obviously I'm not reading from a script. This show is too all over the place for that. But I had said some things. I had remembered some things about the way that I dealt specifically with my son when he was very young.
We love our sons. Son, they're easy. We love them.
Yes, exactly.
Get up here.
and bringing down the hammer, so to speak, and trying to intimidate and scare him with
you gotta scare him.
Authoritarian style parenting. And the more I thought about that after the show, the more I felt bad. I felt very guilty about some of the things I had said and done when I was a new parent, because I thought that that's the way it went. I thought that if you instill, and of course I wasn't thinking these exact thoughts, but if you instill the proper amount of fear in a child, then they will do what they're supposed to do, and everything will go smoothly. It worked with me, okay? And when I say it worked, what I mean is I didn't push back against that. My son did, and therefore it backfired many, many, many times. So anyway, I went to my son, and he's 11 now, and I told him, look, I did this show. He was really into it. And I said, I want to apologize. I feel
a big mistake. You never apologize to the kids.
Very bad. I got soft, and I said, I just want to apologize because I'm sure that you remember at least some of that from when you were very young, and that was not the right way to go about things. And I hope that I'm different today. And he said, yeah, no, you are. And he was very nice about it. He said, I do remember some of those times, but I know that you've, worked hard, has he worked hard to change the nature of our relationship. So it was a really nice moment. And he said, you got to keep talking about it on the Dad Szn Show, because he said a lot of dads are doing that. I swear this sounds like I'm making it up, but he's a very bright kid.
This isn't a classic. My son's asking about the rule of law. My son is, of course, 3.
Right. No, we're not talking about Ruth Conda here. And he really did say this. He said, you got to keep talking about it on the show, because I'm sure there are a lot of dads who are making that mistake and really don't even know they're making it. And I said, yes, that's exactly what I said on the first time I mentioned it. I said that it's just a reflex. So I wanted to ask you, Pat, about like the reflexive nature, like the almost the like natural way of being a dad, which is to say, you need to do this thing because I said so. And I'm sure, I don't know, talk about how that has affected you as a father.
Well, yeah, every child needs to be treated as an employee before labor. It's really how I approach it. And yeah, I mean, it's like the worst possible shortcut. It always feels like it has to be avoided at all costs, is of course what it comes down to, because it's like the classic, I'm gonna take the shortcut and get there faster. And then like everyone else in the car knows, well, we know this way is longer. Like, why are you claiming this is a shortcut? Yeah, and like, no, trust me, it's faster. Right. And you take it, and then you get there 10 minutes later than if you had just not turned. And that's the same thing with like the fear thing, like the scaring them thing. That it just doesn't. First off, like the main reason not to do it is that it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
Like, it just does not work. I mean, listen, if scaring my kid worked, I would do it every day.
No, but it doesn't work.
That's the big flaw with the authoritarian style and the scaring them, is that it does not work. And as you said, it just spectacularly backfires.
Yes.
So yeah, and yeah, I mean, a lot of learned behavior, which they learn. Boy, there's so much weird stuff going on with the World War II dads, and I don't really know what that did to our dads, that whole generation. But it's almost like they didn't get any. They couldn't even get like their dads to get angry at them.
Right.
So then they like to feel anything at all. Our dads got angry, and now we're trying to unlearn that.
Yeah,
it is very, very weird,
right.
like psychic loop.
And yeah, I'm glad you use the term unlearn, because that's what it is. It's not explicit. You haven't been explicitly told to parent this way. You just you learn it. Like Toronto Dave in the comments says, probably it's an element of learned behavior carried over from our dads. And yeah, I think Toronto Dave, as usual. By the way, Pat, Toronto Dave's off the charts, a great commenter, and it makes points that are so salient. I'm like, can you not? Because you're actually overshadowing what I'm saying.
Or maybe should he come on the show?
Yeah, no, he should host the show. He should host the damn show. So, yeah, and so I actually think, yeah, Pat, I think that like each generation of dads has become increasingly involved in their kids' lives.
Oh, boy, are we ever!
And exactly. And
I got to be earnest. Yep. All right, I'm gonna be earnest.
So right. So you have. I know it's hard. It's hard when especially when you come up in the podcasting streets, being as ironic as possible. It's hard to get earnest. But
big problem for me is it's not even just the podcasting. And you mentioned we're going to go off on wild tangents because that's just what we do. That's all I've done my entire life.
Yeah, right.
Go
exactly.
off on wild tangents. All right. But.
So yeah, World War II dads not involved at all. What happened in the home? It's funny because it's like, as much as we think of back then as the father, as the head of the household, they weren't even involved in the household.
No, they weren't.
Okay,
they really were not. Even the good ones were like barely involved in the household. It just wasn't like the archetype of the time.
They were completely checked out as far as how the household ran. Okay. And then their sons became slightly more involved. I think that's a matter of changing demographics, women going to work, an expectation that both parents will be parents. And then you get to millennials and Zoomers, and many of us are at least trying to split it down the middle. And that is a whole different ball game than it was a generation ago. It's unrecognizable from 2 generations ago. And yeah, but we entered. So I entered parenthood in 2012. What year did you become a dad?
14. Oh no, sorry, 16.
2016. Okay.
I know. Come on, hold on real quick. I got cheat sheet right here.
You can take some time to call your wife and ask when your kids were born.
Amelia. Yeah, Amelia was born in 16.
There you go. Thank you for looking that up. We'll edit that part out.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
I got married in 2014.
Oh, there you go.
The kid arrived in 2016.
And yeah, so I entered parenthood in 2012 thinking, okay, I know how to do this. Like, because
there's a key difference between I didn't feel that way.
Really?
No.
Man, I felt pretty confident that, like, okay, this is a horrible phrase, but it's something that parents use all the time. I turned out okay. So I know how to make a kid turn out okay. I can just carry it over. And man, it backfired in my face so hard. And if you want to go back, folks, if you want to go back to episode 2 of the Dad Szn Show, I talked about authoritative parenting, which, is not hands off. Okay. This is not what I'm advocating here. I'm not advocating for you to become a hippie in a commune and say, my kids can do whatever they want. They can say whatever they want. They don't have any responsibilities. That is not it. That is not it. Creating a set of expectations and calmly explaining what needs to happen in order to, I don't know, things like earn screen time, earn playing outside time. Okay. Like to even earn, money around the house for different chores. These are systems you can put in place and enforce them in a calm way. And the important thing, Pat, and I don't know if you have any experience with this, I'm guessing you do, is not to stoop to the child level, because that is something that I have done so many times. That's part of why I'm almost embarrassed to talk about this, because I have stooped to that level where you engage in what's known as a power struggle, right? with your kid and you say, okay, we're on the same level now, buddy. Okay, like when now it's me versus you. I'm gonna win. And even in a linguistic sense, okay, even in an argumentative sense, I'm smarter, I'm older, I'm gonna win. At that point, you've lost.
You say the literal only possible outcome is an L. At that
And yes, you have lost at that point. It doesn't mean that you have to give up. It just means that you honestly, and I can't emphasize this enough, you got to take a step back. You got to take a breather. Even if that's the last thing you want to do. And trust me, I know it is the last thing you want to do sometimes, but taking a breather and collecting yourself is the best thing you can do for yourself and for your kid.
See, this is the classic. Doing nothing in that situation is better than doing the something, which will just be wrong. She'll be too upset. And so yeah, just leave, and then of course let your partner deal with it.
Well, I mean, I know you're being facetious, but sometimes that is the best.
It actually is, and because for whatever reason, as you know from being a parent, one thing will like frustrate one parent more than the other. And so it is if something just bothers you more than it bothers your wife, or vice versa.
Yes.
Your significant other, you just leave.
Yeah.
Like, no, like it doesn't matter if you think they're going to handle it. Like, oh, they're going to be too soft. It doesn't matter because they're going to handle it better than you in that moment. Because the anger it produces quite literally never a good outcome. Like truly ever.
That's exactly it.
It's so self-defeating. And you might feel like, well, I'm going so fine. They can do whatever they want. They can just do whatever they want. It just is so much better.
Yeah. So I think
I know we're not like breaking new ground here. But,
well, I mean, to me, when Xavier was 5, 6, 7 years old, and I was learning these things for the first time, that it was new to me. Oh, I can step away and take a breather. Like I didn't know that. I thought I had to stand my ground. I thought I had to be a tough guy. Okay. Like I had to show him who's boss. If I can't do that, then what am I doing? And that cannot be your approach. It may actually work in the short term. It will not work in the long term. I can promise you that. And by the way, Pat mentioned something I think is important. Being aware of the things that trigger you most with kids, right? That upset you the most. For me, I know that is bedtime related issues. Okay. Not all, but there are some times when it's like clear that one of my kids is going to go to the mat and not go to bed. And I can't deal. I can't deal because it's the end of the day. I'm already frayed. Right. All I want is to go downstairs and watch sports or make stupid DFS lineups or watch Twin Peaks. That's all I want. Right. And it's right there.
Finish Rise and Fall of the Third Reich.
Yes. Read occasionally.
Again, the Reich has finally been falling. It was rising for 700 to 800 pages.
Pat's been reading this book for a long time.
I have, and
Stephen King level book.
And so we are deep into the fall. Thank God.
Yeah. But yeah, so knowing what really gets your goat, as the kids are saying, is important. For me, it's bedtime. I think, for my wife, it might be issues around like cleaning up, cleaning up the room, cleaning up the kitchen. That doesn't bother me so much. I feel like I can maybe handle that a little better. And being there and telling your spouse or your partner, telling them like, hey, I can take this. That is like a key to avoiding the authoritarian approach, because the authoritarian approach is at the end of that rope, right? You just keep pulling that rope, and you get there, and suddenly you are yelling. Suddenly you're saying things that you're going to regret, and you're engaged again in a power struggle. You cannot. Once you find yourself in the power struggle, you have to pull out. You have to.
And you're just making it more likely to happen again. Like for like kids, their psychology is just different. And like, it just makes, I feel like it makes the poor behavior just a million times more likely to happen when they know, because if they're feeling tired, if they're feeling upset, like kids, they try to trigger their parents all the time. And
yes.
If you react in that fashion, you're just going to, instead of, even if like you said, it works the one time, you're just making it 5 times more likely to happen again. Yeah.
Yes, right. You have to recognize this for what it is. If the kid is intentionally trying to make you mad and you get mad, you've given them exactly what they want. You can't do that. You have to be the bigger person. And I know, listen, I get that's hard to be the bigger person. Every fiber of your being wants to be the smaller person.
So let's
And
be
say,
clear. I've never lost an argument with my kids. This is
I have.
let's be clear.
Sarah says, thank you. Don't be embarrassed. We've all been there. So hard to stay calm for the 5th time, 10th time. Going to try to remember this pot. Oh, I appreciate that, Sarah. And I know Sarah's a Living the Stream fan. So we appreciate that as well. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it takes patience. It takes almost like a saintly patience to get through some of these things. Diego is in the chat. Hey, Diego, a long time buddy online. I try and handle things with our son because I feel like he sucks in the way I suck, so I can sympathize better. That's actually I think that's a really good realization. Like I said, like understanding your shortcomings is a key to getting better as a parent, and I can see a lot of my shortcomings reflected in my son. So that does make sense.
And I think what it boils down to is it might feel like almost like appeasement. Like if you're very upset about something and like your spouse isn't really that upset and like you're too mad, like whatever, I'm just going to let him or her deal with this. I got to leave the room. And you might want to resist something might be telling you to like resist that. Goes, well, no, because she's not even going to get mad at him about it.
Yeah.
And like it feels like appeasement to you. But it's just without fail produces the better outcome. You can't view it that way. It's you have to just view whatever like gets amicably resolves the situation is going to be better. And then afterwards, it's the classic. You can talk about it. Like once everyone's calmed down, you can be like, listen, like I really do not like when you do that, or you can't be doing that. Because it's sometimes it might feel like you're giving in, and like giving in will produce a bad result. Like, well, now I'm just going to be emboldened and do that, and which is a very natural instinct, but it's just not true. Like if you're calm, it's not giving in.
No,
it's just a million times better way towards resolution for then, and then resolution in the future and preventing it from happening.
Yeah, I once heard I once heard a like an anecdote or a comparison about how the parent needs to be like the anchor in this situation, because the kid doesn't like any of this. When there's an argument happening, when there's a conflict happening, the kid they don't enjoy this. Okay,
no, they absolutely love when mom and dad are catty with each other.
They don't want this. So you need to be the anchor. That's something I try to keep in mind. There's a really good comment here from Jamie. Jamie says, I've told my kids that I'm going to leave the room now, so I don't say anything that I don't want to say. Jamie, that is unbelievably good. Like that is perfect. That's perfect, because guess what you're doing there? You're modeling good behavior. You're modeling a behavior that your kids, hopefully one day, I hope that my kids will too, will one day use that exact kind of strategy to get themselves out of power struggles, whether it's with a partner or whether it's with a kid or whatever, a coworker. Like me and Pat are always in power struggles over who's gonna write up Tyler Conklin's free agency blurb.
It took about the lifting of 3 different restraining orders from our various legal teams to even make this podcast happen.
It did. Well, before the Supreme Court made the Colorado decision, they had to decide on this. I don't know if you guys saw that.
It was only 6-3. It was kind of weird. Weird coalition behind that.
Right. Kavanaugh in the majority. Which
it was weird. Kavanaugh and Kagan were in the majority on that one.
Yeah, well, strange. But yeah, so Jamie has a really good comment there. And it's something that will pay off. Okay. I said earlier about how the short term, sometimes the authoritarian stuff can work, but not long term. This is the long term strategy where you can say, I am worked up. I am not feeling this at all. I'm going to say something I regret, so I'm going to leave the room. That will stick with your kids way more than if you just hunker down and say, I'm not losing this.
It basically boils, I think really the only single parenting attribute that matters is patience and calmness. And sometimes if you don't get angry enough in your mind, you might feel like you're letting them win. But when you're patient, it's making them more patient in the long run. they're not getting away with anything. Like
Yeah.
they're just calming down. Truly, again, I'm not breaking any. The only attribute that matters at all really is patience. Like
Mhm.
and it's not always possible, of course.
No.
Which is then where you take Jamie's advice and just leave the room. But you have to abandon the idea that, because that's something I've always struggled with. Well, then there's getting away with it. Like they think this is fine and normal, and they can keep doing this, and that's just the totally wrong way to look at it.
Yeah.
Where you keep the kid calm, be patient, model patience, model good behavior, because the quickest behavior in the world to learn is yelling. And like if you yell, you create a yeller, basically.
That's right.
And so like I'm not a naturally patient person, so I have to do a lot of gonna go sit on the couch and read for a minute and leave.
Right.
And
You can feel your cheeks fill up with blood.
Yes.
Like you can feel your pores open. Okay.
I feel blood coming out of my eyes.
Right. I mean, there's a real physical element to getting angry with kid stuff. Okay. And getting angry in general. I get that it's all the same in that way. But yeah, I mean, with your kid can make you physically like go into fight or flight mode. You got to flight.
You do.
You got to choose the flight. Kyle Myers is in the chat. It says, this is an issue I've had internally when trying to, quote, take my space during these moments, feeling like it unfairly pushes the responsibility onto my wife. I get that. I do understand that. And we definitely don't want to always say, okay, hey, partner, you got this. Okay. Like I'm not reading all that. You got it. That's not the point. But I think in a good partnership, there is an understanding that when one person is, for lack of a better term, melting down.
Yes. Spiraling, as it's known.
The other person needs to be able to step in and calmly handle the situation.
I think a natural equilibrium usually develops in that regard too. Some parent, you're going to push, the mom's going to push certain things on the dad's going to push certain things. And it has nothing to do with gender. Like, because there could be in any relationship, like the man could be the more patient one, or the woman could be the more patient one, or the man could be. So it's just like everyone is different. Really breaking new ground here. Everyone's different.
Well, no,
you guys hear about this?
Some of the most basic things that we might say on a show like this are kind of newsy to especially new parents. I feel like, or parents who have never heard this sort of talk before, who have naturally leaned on the authoritarian model, and it's so natural. Like it just especially I think with dudes just do it because we're supposed to be dominant, right? We're supposed to be tough and alpha and all that bullshit. And that's not true. I'm here to tell you that's not true.
Yeah, I think if I could say so first, I'm actually terrible at giving advice. I'm never good at it. I would say the one like idea I would like really try to push on to people is because it's what I've struggled with the most is there's no such thing as like letting them win.
Right.
Like, because no matter what, you're going to talk about it after the fact, after everyone's calmed down. It's not very like, well, you can keep doing that forever now. You wore me down with your poor behavior. So now I'm just going to let you do it forever now. It's a faulty idea that you're letting them win. You're not letting them win by being calm and maybe taking a moment. Like ratcheting down the situation.
I think just following that thread for a second, like I think that not viewing it as a competition would be helpful. As a winning or losing situation. I actually think that seeing it as a winning or losing situation pretty much guarantees that you're going to lose.
It's really is crazy, but the only possible outcome is defeat. It's uncanny.
It is hard to emphasize, honestly, Pat. It's hard to emphasize that enough. If anybody's listening or watching it and they're saying, no, you don't understand. I can pull off the authoritarian dad thing. I can do it. I'm the one. Okay, you can't. It's not going to work long term. We have some comments here. Tyler says we all have different patience parameters and triggers. Good to tag team like Taysom packages. Right person for the right situation. Taysom Hill, of course, being my favorite football player. We have
he makes such an amazing point. Like usually my wife is the more patient, calm one. Right. There are certain things that so she won't understand like some things make me so upset sometimes. It's more on my end, but there's some like my wife like likes things to be very nice.
Yes.
And, like, so she'll get like very upset like about like a smudge getting on. So I was like, I know it's probably not really that big of a deal. That's actually a horrible example. But normally she's the more patient one. Occasionally, though, I am actually the more patient one. And it is like where the tag team comes in. You just got to know which parent is going to be more chill in that situation. Yeah.
Absolutely. We have some other comments here. We have, where is that one? Oh, Jamie's back. Jamie says, I definitely grew up in a yelling household. My parents fought loudly in front of me. They yelled at me. It's been very important and sometimes difficult to break that cycle. And that's hard, Jamie. Like I actually do empathize with you because I'm sure that's hard. Now, I can't relate because
I grew up in a yelling household.
So yeah, okay. I was going to ask you that. It was the opposite for me. Under no circumstances was anyone to raise their voice, no matter the situation.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and
I didn't even do that.
That's we did it. The Carter family did it for many years, where it didn't matter how fraught things got. There was no yelling, and that stuck with me to the point where when I entered marriage and when I entered fatherhood, for a while, I was horrified by any sort of voice raising. Like, no, that won't do. That's unacceptable. We don't do that here. It is largely a natural occurrence for voices to raise when things get tense.
So I'm always trying to tell people.
But you have. I mean, if you don't believe me, listen to Pat talk about Ravens running backs. But so you grew up in a it sounds like a very different atmosphere.
I did. Well, I grew up in the kind of household, and it's been in some ways it was almost an advantage because we were like a classic, like the stereotype of an Irish family where we get like explosively angry.
Right.
But then everyone would move on really quickly. So then to me, it was like natural. Like, oh, it got really mad. And then like, that's just easy to be friends again. Let's all move on. But my wife is not like that. And so I'd be like, oh, it's the big deal. I'm not mad anymore. And
right. Yes.
So
exactly.
So in some ways I thought like growing up in a shouty household, like made me like less angry. Cause like, I was like, I would just move on quickly. But there's actually turns out zero advantages to being in a shouty household.
No.
And it's much better to, again, breaking horribly new ground. It's probably don't yell.
Right. Don't yell if you can help it. But I mean, it happens. I think that like I said, I mentioned a few minutes ago when we got into the authoritarian parenting talk, I told you all about approaching my son and saying, I've thought a lot about the way I used to approach things with you, and I regret it, and I'm sorry, and I actually feel terrible about it when I think back on it. I think that you can take that to an everyday level and say, if you lose your cool, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You are not perfect. Neither am I. Pat is actually perfect, but nobody else is. And so somebody had to say it. I was brave enough to. So if you lose your cool, I think it's important to eventually come back to your kid and say, that was not okay. Like what I did.
You actually do have to do that, which also feels like the ultimate, like letting them get away with it, like admitting you're wrong. But it's the only things will fester for a lifetime if you don't do that. And that was tough to me, having to like, I'm going to tell this 3-year-old I was wrong. But you absolutely have to do it. Listen, I should have accepted you just didn't have to go to the bathroom. All right.
Exactly. No,
listen, you haven't gone to the bathroom for 4 hours. Let's be real. You got to go. I know you got to go. I know you got to go.
Your bladder's filled up. I know it is. Go to the bathroom.
You got to go to the bathroom. But yeah, no, it's always apologizing is quite. Again, I'm breaking great new ground here. Never ever the wrong choice ever.
Right. And so it is. Yeah. I think that it can be very simple. I have an example recently from when my daughter, she's 7, she out of nowhere was like, I'm not feeling well. I'm sick. And this was like on a Sunday evening, like right before school, we're going to get ready to go to school the next day. And so I rolled my eyes and she saw it.
You're a terrible father.
Yeah. I mean, it really, really a bad dad moment. And she called me out on it later. And my initial reaction was to get defensive. and to say, no, what? No, that didn't happen. Or that's not what I meant. And I suppressed that defensive urge. And I said, yeah, that was really uncalled for by me. And if you don't feel well, you don't feel well. I need to not do that. And I'm sorry about that. And of course, look, these kids, they want to connect with you on that human level. Okay. And once you do that, they love it. They love it. The feedback you get, you will be shocked at how instantly positive it is. And that was her. She, oh, it's okay. It's okay. No problem. And I was like, oh man, that worked.
Well, yeah, a kid saying that to you, that's very empowering.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I'm glad that they feel, at least in that moment, that she felt good, okay with calling me out. We have Tyler says, I'm sure Denny then may have struggled showing and telling my frustrations, and maybe non-parental emotions were accepted. My wife struggled with that from a no yelling home. Pat's point was mine. Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it affects you. I think that basically, Pat, maybe you push back on this a little bit, but like you try to recreate the home that you had when you were little.
Well, even if you don't try to, like, you can be like your stated intention could be not recreating it, but it's subconsciously, it's so difficult not to. And,
yeah.
Well, this is how, even if you don't realize what you're doing, well, this is how we settled things growing up. I'm going to go settle this right now. And my son ran away. and now he's crying. All right.
Yeah. Now I feel like a monster.
Yeah. Nevertheless.
Yeah. All right. We're going to do a few more of your comments, and then we are going to head out in about 3 minutes here. Diego's back. Losing your cool is the best opportunity you have to show your kids that it's important to apologize. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that Diego's right. If you see it as an opportunity, it'll change the way you approach that situation, right? Instead of being like, God, I got to bite the bullet. I got to apologize. I got to be the weak one. If you approach it like that, they're going to see through you. Kids are great at that. Okay.
Oh, yeah. No one can spot a fake apology.
Oh my God, they can see right through you. It's actually like unnerving. The fact that kids can see you, in a way that adults can't. You can fake it with adults. You can't fake it with kids. So that's actually a really good point. Matt Lacoste is in the chat. I think a big thing is taking a few minutes to talk about what happened once everyone has calmed down, understanding why we lost our cool. Exactly. That's exactly it. When you're calm, it turns out you can communicate better.
It turns out it wasn't really that big of a deal that there was a Lincoln log on the ground.
Nothing. It turns out that when you spill your entire cereal across the table.
That's true. I mean, no, come on, then you can yell. Let's come on.
That we didn't actually have to move out of the house because the mess was too much to clean.
And I cleaned it up in 90 seconds, but nevertheless.
Right. And it's okay. It's going to be okay. So that actually is a really good point, Matt. I appreciate everybody for joining the chat today. This is I think a really good conversation for Dad Season episode 4. Please like and subscribe to the podcast. And if you have parents who are interested in learning something, a little bit of something about parenting, again, I'm not giving advice. I'm not qualified for that. Yeah. But if you have parents who might be interested in the show, send it their way. Recommend it. Get the algorithm churning, folks. Let's get Dad Season in the algo. And I want to thank Pat for joining me on the show today. You can catch us tomorrow on the Roto World Football Show. We'll be on Twitch at 2 o'clock. And then you can find us anywhere podcasts are sold, anywhere you get your podcasts. So thank you, Pat, for joining. And we will see you on episode 5 of the Dad Season Show.